Perfect. All right, I just have to make sure it's muted. Welcome, everybody, to the Awakened Being page. Today, I am speaking with Monique Hill, which I am super pleased to announce that we are going to be doing a show once a month talking about all of the different human emotions that we have to deal with and go through and understand, and hopefully we can help others work through these things. And so welcome, Monique. So
thank you.
Yeah, why don't you take a moment and just introduce yourself and where you come from and how you got on this path, and what is it that you do now?
Okay, thanks, Linda. Hi, everybody. I'm Monique, and I call myself an intuitive soul savant. So I've been working on myself since I was 7 years of age. When I read my first scriptures, I actually read the whole Bible because I wanted to, and I found it very interesting. I had a big old Bible with all these amazing biblical pictures that really drew me in, and I just had a heart for spirit. I was one of the first children to do the World Vision 40-hour famine in Australia that I know of, back in the 70s, in the early 70s. So I very much had a heart to help others. I went on to pick up my first astrology book at 17 years of age, because that's when I felt the effects of childhood trauma. I grew up in a very militant, disciplined, religious family, and a lot of that was passed on to me. I'm actually First Nations person, Australian Aboriginal. However, that was shamed in my childhood and denied. And we now know that we are First Nation family. I must, honour the First Nations people in Australia, because I wasn't raised on country. However, from a very young age, I knew that I was Aboriginal. I used to come home from school and I'd carve into bark and paint bark. And in my early 20s, when the family was still in denial, I danced for a First Nations storyteller, telling Aboriginal stories. So, I very much, my soul led me that way. So I also picked up numerology and many of the New Age, iridology, all of it. I had a look at all of it, but it was a little bit hard. The internet wasn't operative then, so I had to go to the library through all the news agents and find whatever information I could. And also I was shunned by society because all I wanted to do was talk about it. Mm-hmm. And everybody around me just told me, what a lot of BS it was. But I continued. I had the conviction. I knew that was going to help me, and it did help me. We in Australia weren't really big in counselling, therapy, like the Northern Hemisphere. So, that was my therapy, was astrology and numerology. And it was more about to understand why people were different to me and why their motives just looked very different to mine. I do believe that I was born with a pure heart, and I'm a chosen one. So I went on I went to acting school. That was always my passion. However, with the trauma on board, the self-esteem was just nil. So I could do stage shows and singing and dancing. But when it came down to the emotional body, I really couldn't connect when I was younger. But I did push it through. I pushed it through, and I sang and in local venues around with a partner. In my 30s, after I'd had my son, I've been to India 5 times. I went to India for the first time at 29 years of age, searching for myself. And I came back, I had my son, and I went to Bible college, to a Pentecostal church, and studied the scriptures again, but from the perspective of the Holy Spirit. And I very much, for that year, full year, full time. I've very much sunk into the Christ consciousness, you'd call it now, a little different that the church calls it. So that was a turning point, because I really did feel the energy of spirit, and that was a real wake up. From my early 20s, I was forced into a 12-step group. Addiction issues were projected onto myself as the scapegoat of the family. And I really struggled with that, because everybody else was drinking and doing whatever they wanted. However, the projection came onto me. So, for 34 years now, well, not so much now, of course, but for 34 years, that projection still, in their eyes, remains on myself. So today's topic is very much up my alley. So I'll let Linda tell you about today's topic. But today, what I'm doing today is I teach meditation classes. I'm a energy healer, a deep tissue, hands-on Reiki healer, and I've been doing that for 13 years. I did go into the mainstream when my son was young and created a company, corporate cleaning company. However, in the GFC, I lost that. And that was when Pluto ingressed into Capricorn, and I'm a Capricorn. So I lost everything. I lost my son, I lost my house, I lost my business, I ended up homeless. And then in the last 6 years, 7 years, I did the work on the inner child, and cleaned up, went right back through the ancestry to heal those wounds. And today I'm so grateful to say that I truly love myself, and my inner child is very active, and I self-soothe myself. And, with the help of Pluto, I feel very empowered today, but humble as well. That's so I've done a lot. I've done a lot of things in my life. I say I've had a very colourful life. But today, it's my purpose to help others. And it was always my purpose to help others. But I also believe that we do have to help ourselves and heal ourselves before we are anointed to be able to pass that beautiful, miraculous energy onto others to help them on their path. So I have a YouTube channel and I have a Facebook group. However, I'm just focusing today on building the YouTube channel up so far, and working with the beautiful Linda here.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's such an honor. I'm so happy our paths crossed, because I felt just akin right away as soon as we got to talking about things and hearing your perspectives and kind of the way you see things. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely a good alignment for us. So I'm so pleased. And today it's so exciting and I figured this was a great very first show for us because of your journey, talking about willpower, right? So, we have, especially right now in our world, I feel like addictions is such a powerful energy that's taking over, because people just don't know how to handle their emotions and what they're feeling inside. We've lost all of that knowledge. We don't have a community that wants to support one another through the hardships that it takes to get you to that place of knowing and loving and hearing and understanding what you're going through. And I feel like that's what pushes a lot of people into those directions. And willpower is lost when something owns you and all you're doing is waking up and wondering how you're going to get that next fix. And sometimes, drugs is the obvious one, but there's so many. It's relationships, sometimes it's food, it's, work. There's so many different things that can take us over. And then we're living in a cage of how do we get that next fix? How do we get that next high so that we can get out of what we feel inside? So where would you like to start with
Well, you've started the conversation. I mean, in our 3D modern society that we have today, it is coming at us left, right, left, right. I mean, even money, even spending money, wanting to save for something. We have our desires. Oh, I'd like to buy a house in the country or what have you. Then the Black Friday sales start. And I don't know whether you have them in the Northern Hemisphere, but it is crazy, crazy the last couple of days. And I'm not a consumer. You know, that's not one of my addictions, thankfully, but I have friends that are addicted to buying clothes and putting them in their wardrobes with tags on them just to raise their energy, the frequency of their energy, or to soothe any grief or pain that's coming up. So I really believe that we can't, you know, around willpower, there is this energy of shame from others. You're a weak person. Why can't you just stop? Why can't you just save? You know, why can't you do that? There's a lot of shame projected onto us from the modern society. So we really shouldn't blame ourselves. We really need to have compassion for ourselves, that we live in a society where we are bombarded by all sorts of things that we may not desire, but test our willpower. Our willpower, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you had written, so we have a few little notes we put together, but willpower versus ego. Now, I love this because the ego plays so many tricks on you and has so many justifications why we should give in to whatever it is that's got a hold on us, right? Like, you know, there's so many different stories that we tell ourselves, and the ego can really embellish, you know, oh, it's just this one time, or, oh, it's just da da da, or it's, you know, there's so many different stories. But what is your perspective on that?
Well, let's split the two words. We've got will and we've got power. Now let's use a small w for the will. That's our ego. That's our desires. Now, there's nothing wrong with the ego. I just want to say that. We need our egos to survive. However, and our desires, it's our will that helps us to go out and to meet those desires that we have. So our ego is in that little word, that little W-I-L-L, and then the power is from our conviction. And if we don't have a strong enough conviction, then our ego falls over. So I think that the inner conviction is needed for us to step out in a divine will, a capital W. Right? A capital W.
And that's such a, I love that you're talking about that, because, you know, you have to have a strong why. Why do you want it? Why, you know, if it's something that you're trying to overcome and release from your life, why do you not want that in your life? Is if your why is strong enough, it's easy, it's a natural. But if your why is not strong enough to get that conviction behind it, it's so easy to fall back into those old habits. And I love what you were saying too about when we align our will with that of the collective or God's will, whatever that is, it's like the heavy lifting of it is taken right out of the equation. It just is easy to walk into those situations and make those choices, right?
That's exactly right. And I mean, we can use our willpower with our desire to not do something. However, in some cases, we're white knuckling it. And that can be very, very painful. I'm holding on. I mean, you know, in the States, they've got Thanksgiving, and I'm sure there's many people that said, right, I'm not going to overeat today. My little will is, my desire is to not overeat or overdrink or overspeak, you know, because they're around family and what have you, all sorts of things can happen. So, you know, there's an intention there. But if you were to sit all day at a family gathering, I can't drink too much, I can't eat too much, I've got to bite my tongue. That's white knuckling. That's holding on for dear life. Well, then that's another will that steps in. That's very much the egotistical will that isn't aligned with divine will. And that's where we need our compassion for ourselves, because we're not perfect. That's what we're on this planet for. We're spirit beings having a human experience. And I'm sure the audience here, we all want to be cleaned up. We all want to be free of addictions, free of judgment, free of consumerism, which is affecting our planet. Do you understand? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that white knuckling, it can be very, very painful. And another thing that I thought about was we can have willpower. I'm great on my own. I am strong. I'm a Capricorn. I'm disciplined. I'm disciplined. However, when you take me into a group of friends and family and they're unchecked, that's when I'm tested with my willpower. So my conviction really needs to be strong to be able to enter into that situation. Or what do I do then, Linda? Do I isolate?
Well, this is the thing, is you have, and these moments, and this is what I've learned, I do a lot of cleansing and I do a lot of, being very strict with my diet at certain times. And what happens there is when I know I'm going to be in other situations, I have to have a fallback plan. So something that I can treat myself with that's going to satisfy that part of my mind that says, oh, they're doing it, I want to do it, right? That's not all the way over breaking that promise that I've made to myself.
A plan B. You have
a plan B.
A plan B. Right.
Recently, I went to a spiritual event and I knew it was going to be a potluck. And I knew, of course, there was going to be a lot of sugary foods and breads and stuff like that. And so I made sure that I brought every day with me. I have rice cakes with peanut butter, natural peanut butter, and just a little bit of honey, because honey is okay. A certain type of honey is okay with what I'm doing. And it gives me that, okay, I'm not depriving myself, right? That is the thing, is if you feel like you're depriving yourself, you can only do it for so long.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's because exactly right.
And I did listen to just a short YouTube video. I just thought I'd have a look and see what was online on YouTube. And he brought up students studying at college. They need this tremendous amount of willpower to be able to get through. However, that collapses eventually. It's not a willpower that's maintainable.
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, the spiritual community, and I would love to believe the collective are heading to a place where we are starting to wake up and understand what's good for us and what isn't good for us, because the education now is coming out. I mean, take cigarette smoking, for example. It's taken decades for the majority to be non-smokers. Here in Australia anyway, the majority of people in Australia are non-smokers. But that's taken decades of education. It's taken decades of shaming, because there's a lot of shaming around people that are still smoking cigarettes. There's no doubt about that. It's a big topic. And all I keep coming back to is compassion for the self. Compassion for the self. Because that could top, like if our willpower lets us down, so to speak, with that compassion, it allows us to keep trying. Persistence. Right. And I believe with the persistence, we will get to our end goal. I really do believe that. But, to affirm to ourselves, and I've heard this many, many times, oh, I have no willpower. I have no willpower. Oh, I'm shocking. I've got no willpower. I think that's the first step is to cut that affirmation out and be very aware of that rolling off the tongue, because we all have the same amount of willpower. Different people, of course, are born with fantastic willpower. I mean, you take Aries sun signs, for example, they have an iron will, but that's reflected back onto their ego. That comes back onto their ego. I want this, I'm going to go get it. I want this, and if I want that, well, I can't do that, and off they go. And it's very admirable. But it's with Aries, and they will affirm to this, that they don't see it through. There's a sort of a point where they burn out, you know, with their will. And I mean, even look at a willful child. I was labeled a willful child, and in hindsight, I think that affected me, where I thought being willful was a bad thing. You know, the willfulness. So
to just go back a little bit to what you were talking about affirmations. Now, this is a very powerful tool when it comes to, you know, trying to overcome an addiction or set a lifestyle up that you're trying to reach for yourself. Because I remember I quit smoking. I was 25, so, you know, 20 years ago, but I did not, it wasn't hard. And the reason why is because I just kept telling myself, you know, I am a non-smoker. I am a non-smoker. And I would continually say this. And even though I would light a cigarette, I would say, you know what? There's a day coming really soon when I am going to be able to say, I am a non-smoker. And it just is something that I kept saying, and it just naturally was so easily out of my life. And so after that experience, it became so much easier for me to have this compassion for, okay, we need this right now. Right now, I get it. This is what we need. But one day, we're not going to need this anymore. And I always looked at that like that was a positive affirmation, that it was like, you know, that day comes, it does. And the more that we can be very gentle with ourselves and what our needs are, and really ask, like, why do I need this? Why am I breaking my promise to myself? Where does this come from? When did it start? What emotion am I trying to shut down or run away from or look away from? You know, and so kind of switching that point of view from, you know, having to fight it to let's work with it was a huge transformation for me.
Oh, that's beautiful, Linda. That really is, because as our true self, we are non-smokers, non-drinkers. We are just pure energy. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we come into this world, we may have been born into a family that smokes, overeats, overspends, does drugs, you know, whatever, gambles, you know, there's so much out there that we could use our willpower for. But that compassion, that self-forgiveness, that self-compassion, which is self-love, for the moment, and the affirmation. And I've been, you know, I've had my rune stones, you know, for 40 odd years. And, you know, one of the runes, the rune of communication and journey and union and reunion with the divine. So it's reunion with our masculine, feminine, and that sacred marriage. You know, I will, my little WILL, to will, thy will, capital W. So as long as we're consciously aware that that's where we're headed, that's what we're wanting. We're wanting to align our ego's will with divine's will. And we all know that that's a healthy body, because this is our temple.
So right. And that's when it seems to just move so much smoother, and the heavy lifting and the white knuckling is not even a necessity anymore.
That's right. I think the self-compassion is absolutely key. We are on a journey here. No wonder we're on a journey. That's the rune of journey. And it's not going to happen overnight. And if we were completely perfect, well, we wouldn't have a reason to be here and play out this human project that we are on, to move as divine, conscious, awakened beings to work through this Monique project. Monique project has come in with addiction issues from ancestry. So, and it's in my chart. I have Saturn in Pisces, Chiron in Pisces, opposing Pluto and Uranus in Virgo, the health sign, right? And both of those are about addiction, energy. So that's my human project, this life. And unfortunately, I bashed myself up so badly as a younger person. And I love 12-step groups, okay? I love them. I'm currently not a member. However, if I needed to be, I would jump straight in. That's just my personal opinion. But I've seen so much suffering and pain from people that slip. Even in church, they call it backsliding. And the frustration and the self-shaming and the disappointment, not only from themselves, but family and whoever's around them. And we really need to avoid that. We really need to stop flogging ourselves when we do slip up.
It's such a hard thing to do as somebody on the outside watching somebody that you love go back to something that's completely destroying their lives, and the best thing, unfortunately, the best thing you can do is just step back and say, I have to let go and not have any expectations over what you want for that person or how you want it to turn out or how you want them to be or the potential you see they have, and just let it go and say, I have to disengage. And when you're ready, I'm here, but I can't go down that path with you, because that's what happens is it feeds into that shame. It feeds into that disappointment. It feeds into, and that's not serving anybody who's going down that path.
That's right. And that's one of the affirmations of the 12-step groups is, therefore, by the grace of God, go I. However, if you've got an individual who wasn't born with that set of addiction, let's say, for their human project, they find it very hard to have the compassion, because compassion is all about understanding and putting yourself in that person's shoes. However, if you're very militant and disciplined and judgmental, then you will point the finger at somebody else. Oh, they're weak. They've got no willpower. Oh, I've had enough of them. When what's really required is that self-compassion. Yes, step aside by all means if it's going to affect your human project's journey. But we really do need to step back from judgment of others that are homeless, that are struggling in this life. I'm sure, majority of people, we have a homeless issue rising here in Australia.
We do.
Due to the housing market and everything that's been going on in the last couple of years. And there's many people living in their cars, beautiful families living in their cars. Now, I'm sure their will is not to live in their car. However, that is their journey. And I think we all need compassion, for them as well. I just took a bit of a bunny trail there, sorry.
No, that's perfectly okay. And I love too, just how you need to really just accept where you are right now and love where you are right now, because that is part of the journey of being able to shift it, is saying, you know what, it may have been a very dark place that you've gone to. It may have been a big, huge struggle, but that struggle gave you something that you wouldn't have otherwise received.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. And another point that I sort of reflected upon is when we are grounded and in our bodies, we are connected to our will power. So if there's trauma going on, or we still have trauma going on in our bodies and we are reactive, we leave our bodies, right? We leave our bodies. So the more we ground ourselves through meditation and coming back into our body, self-reflection, we have a better chance. So before we walk into that Thanksgiving party or what have you, right, self-check. I'm in my body here. I know what my desires are. I know what I want to do and what I don't want to do, as opposed to, hi, we're here. Woo, woo, woo. We're totally out of our body. And I've been like that. That's the only reason I know that. I mean, I lived out of my body for 50 years because of the trauma on board. And my inner child. Now that I'm connected with my inner child, it's the adult self, the divine self is the parent now. And we need to look at that as well, because would you feed your child that? Would you pour that down your child's throat? You know, would you give that much money to your child to run out and blow? You know, so I think the grounding, which the spiritual and awakening community are starting to become aware of, is that now moment, being in the now moment, conscious, aware, not with our mind last week, next week, you know, in total excitement. So, because I did, you know, where is this willpower coming from? Is it coming from the mind? Is it coming from the heart? But then I came to, it's coming from conviction. Yeah. It's coming from conviction. Yeah. And I know that this is what I want for myself. Not, oh, I've got to give this up because my family said that they'd disown me if I didn't. That's not conviction.
That's never going to be the way it's going to work.
No.
It has to be something you want to do for yourself.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You know, and let's just kind of dive into what is conviction, because, you know, I don't think that in my younger years, I really knew what a conviction was, you know, like it's, you know, you feel it, you can feel it from certain people who are maybe think that they know better. So when they're talking to you, they come at you with this certain type of conviction that, you know, life is this way, this is the truth, you need to live this way, and that's it. And, you know, as you kind of grow up, you kind of realize, like, yeah, that's somebody else's truth. Doesn't necessarily mean it's my truth, but I feel like truth is a huge intertwining into what conviction really is about, you know.
I feel it in the heart. It's, I know that I know. Mm-hmm. It's a physical feeling rather than an intellectual feeling. Yeah. Because as we evolve, our beliefs evolve.
Absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. But a conviction is in the heart. Mm-hmm. For me, for myself. Yeah, it's a feeling. It's a, I know that I know. And I know that I know so well that if all of humanity walked to the right, I would walk to the left. Yeah. It's that strong. Conviction is right. I'm done. This is the miracle when people wake up and go, right, I'm done with that. That's the conviction has settled. We have transformed through our journey of desiring our will to align with divine's will, our divine self, our higher self. Because we must remember, you know, there's so many parts of ourselves that it isn't our ego, you know, it's our higher self, our higher angel that is always there to help us along with our convictions, because they wouldn't come to us if it wasn't so. Like, I don't have a shopping issue, therefore it doesn't even come into my consciousness that I need to be careful shopping. Yeah. And somebody who doesn't have a drinking issue wouldn't even think, oh, I've got to think about how many drinks I have. They would naturally be convicted to know that, oh, I only have 2 drinks. I've got to get up and go to the gym in the morning, and the gym is much more important.
Right.
To me, there's another level of our willpower. What is important to us as individuals?
Yeah.
Therefore, we have no judgment over another person's journey.
Let's talk about how damaging it is when we break those promises to ourselves. And I don't know if it's damaging, but it is damage in a way. Like, and I'm just curious of your opinion on how does that affect somebody when they break those promises to themselves?
Well, the first thing that comes in is shame, self-shaming, beating ourselves up. Now, that is learned behavior from childhood, beating ourselves up. If we grew up in a family where there was an allowing of I'm trying to use positive words here. Yeah, if there was an allowing of our shortcomings, and we were taught to allow our shortcomings and to forgive ourselves and comfort ourselves and soothe ourselves and have self-compassion, then we would walk into adulthood with those tools on board. However, most people who suffer with addictions, you know, these go right back to our roots, right? So we need to learn. This is where the Human Project comes into form. We need to actually learn not to shame ourselves, not to beat ourselves up. In my earlier life, I have even bashed myself up. And I've heard this from other people. By making the mistake and wanting and desiring so much to be free, that I actually bashed myself up. And I woke up with a sore head the next day. Now, with the help of a therapist, and he's a wonderful therapist, we work on allowing the I am self to observe and to watch these things pass by, because to give them negative energy, we're just expanding them.
That's right. We're giving them power.
That's right. We're giving them energy. But to allow and to observe and to quietly say, oh, okay, I did it again. I'm sorry, Monique. We're gonna do better next time. How about that? So it's back to that self-compassion that we need to learn, especially now. Especially now, we are learning self-compassion, self-love, and honoring the self rather than beating the self up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important. It's you know, our day and age and everything that we just went through over the last couple of years has just been such an eye opener around, mental health and addictions and suicides and all of these things that have just, overdosing. Our society has lost its connection to why are we here? Why are you, what are you to bring? And purpose is one of the, biggest factors is people who have a strong sense of purpose in this world because of, again, that conviction. But it's also like, when you have a strong sense of purpose, there's people that need you. There's, things that need to come into creation through you, that it gives you, a reason to get up every day, a reason to keep pushing through the dark, a reason to keep, and that I find is another thing that we really have lost, giving our children at such a young age that you have purpose. At such a young age, you're supposed to have purpose to, be in the family, your purpose is go to school and learn the basics of living life. You have your chores, you have, your family that needs your love and respect. That's your purpose as a child, right? And to make sure that your children know that's their purpose. They have a purpose, and so that they grow into the world knowing that they have this strong purpose, that they're needed in physical reality. They wouldn't be here if they weren't needed. So this, I find, is another thing that really easily feeds that will to pull yourself out of a dark place.
That's right. And, if there's any young mums and dads out there that are listening to this is key, because you are raising the next generation, the next human collective. And, bullying is such a big thing. However, my opinion on bullying is, we don't send our kids to therapy to overcome bullying. We should be sending our kids to therapy to have self-esteem and self-love. And then the bully has no power, right? The drug has no power. The alcohol has no power. When from a young age, our children are raised with their purpose, that if they weren't on the planet, things will be different, because they carry an energetic signature. And just like you and I have met each other just this week, what were we doing before that? I mean, it's time for you and I to come together, your purpose and my purpose now. So this is, it's so important for our children to be raised. However, it's going to take a few generations, because if a person hasn't been raised with those skills and tools, how can they then give that to their children? But self-esteem, self-love, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, all of these beautiful things that we think we need to give to others really do need to be given to ourselves. And then there's no willpower required to overcome any of these things, because we're looking after our temple, we're loving ourselves, and we wouldn't want to harm ourselves. So trauma therapy is so important for adults now, whatever age. I've worked with, 80-year-olds that are doing their trauma therapy. So it's never too late to get to that place of self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and aligning our will with the divine's will, with our higher self, because our higher self wouldn't want to beat us over the head.
No. And that's the interesting thing. There's a couple of things that were going on. In the Course of Miracles, they talk a lot about like what reality really is, and the difference between fear and choosing the light, and that the fear keeps us kind of in the dark. And that once we step out of those fears and release those fears and focus on the light, like all of the darker stuff in our lives just kind of falls away, and it's no longer has an effect on us anymore. But I also wanted to talk about forgiveness, because forgiveness is such a powerful tool that I feel so many people are just not aware of how it works. And when it comes to, as I was talking earlier about, when I was quitting smoking, that was a big thing for me, is if I had a cigarette, it was like, it's okay. I forgive you. I still love you. And it's okay. That forgiveness. So in my experience doing inner child work so far, forgiveness opens up the mind to receive inspired thinking. And that inspired thinking gives you the tools or different ways of looking at reality so that you can step into a new reality.
That's what was, when you started speaking, the first word that came to my mind was the consciousness. So the conscious awareness of who I am. I'm a spiritual being on earth at school. Therefore, I'm going to slip up. I'm not going to get it perfectly. And it's the self-understanding. I've been a perfectionist. I still am a touch perfectionistic with my work and what have you, dotting I's and crossing T's. But as far as my spiritual journey and what have you goes, I'm very conscious now of why we are here and what we are doing here. We're certainly not here to build houses and own the most things in our garage. You know, and being so connected with the planet as a First Nations person, you know, it's the consciousness, as you said, different modes of thinking. It's that conscious awareness of, what am I doing here? Who am I? And this community would be on that path, if not already fully conscious. And you know, when we have self-forgiveness for ourselves, then we're capable of giving it to others.
Oh my
we really can't give it to others 100% until we can give it to ourselves. And that is the compassion that the beautiful Master Jesus spoke of.
That's right. I think it's so funny. When I was very little, like 13, I got into a situation with was my best friend at the time, and our friendship broke apart because of it. And I remember asking, because, you know, when the Bible tells you need to ask God for forgiveness, and I remember asking, and like clear as day, have you forgiven yourself? You know, and I always, you know, after that, I always thought, yeah, have I forgiven myself? Have I really, you know, allowed myself the space to make a mistake and then look at it differently after? Have I given myself that? Have I really given myself that? Or am I tearing myself down because I did it? You know,
and by practicing that self-forgiveness, it becomes automatic.
it does.
So if I slip up these days, it's just bang. Oh, Monique. Well, it's okay, because I need to nurture my inner child, because it's all, this is how we get connected back with our inner child. Our inner child runs away because of the shaming and the shaming. The inner child's gone. I'm out of here. You guys are too hard. And so that's where we become fragmented. And when we were born whole, and then we split ourselves, and the inner child goes, right, I'm in a cave. You're not even going to be able to feel me, see me, touch me, or for many decades know about me. And then once we walk back towards our inner child will then come to us. And then once we have that relationship, and that's our true self, our inner child is our true, beautiful light being that we were born with. That's our beautiful, beautiful love. That's love. That's us. And to walk back to that part of ourselves, then that self-forgiveness just becomes a byproduct of our ego self, conscious awareness, mind self, back to our true divine self. And that's just a beautiful place to be. And then the conviction steps in, so that if any people around us shame us, there's no trigger. It's like, oh gosh, you must still be in unforgiveness of yourself, so you're probably not a safe person for me to be hanging out with. I choose to walk to the left.
Yes. So true. Oh my gosh. Even recently, there was a recent incident that took place, and I just realized the other day that I hadn't forgiven myself. And the thing that I hadn't forgiven myself was for not speaking my truth, for not, you know, doing, and then once I did that, it was like, yeah, I don't need to. That's done now. And it really did. I had a huge release, and it has not plagued me again since then, because that was the self-forgiveness, you know, I wasn't even aware that it was happening. You know, I was still just stuck in the sadness of, oh, I lost, or I didn't, you know, things didn't work out the way that I was maybe hoping that they would. And so that loss feeling, but really what that was that forgiveness towards myself that I needed. That was the last string. That was.
And how many days can that energy go on for? Where we do slip up, it could go on for years, days or years. We either, it's an automatic response when we are in love with ourselves and it's immediate. Or if we're still shaming ourselves, or we haven't made that connection, it can go on for decades. And you're still telling the story to somebody. Oh, 10 years ago, I did this and I'm so ashamed. And oh, what a regret. Then we bring in the word regret. I regret this, I regret that.
Yeah.
These are just steps on our path to divinity.
Yeah.
Back to divinity with our will, our divine will, because that's what we all want. I mean, you know, the human heart wants connection with divine, with the divinity again. And to even, I mean, I know in my church experiences, I used to want to wake up and connect with the divine. And sometimes it'd take till 11 a.m. Right, tomorrow I'm going to wake up. Maybe if I put a book there next to me, I'll remember. But when you've got children, it's not like, you know, it's up, my God, we're gone, you know, we're packing lunches and doing this and doing that. Do you know, I willed that and I wanted that so much. And it's taken a little bit over 20 years. And now I wake up and I'm there. I'm with my divine and I'm conscious and I'm loving myself. I mean, even when I open my eyes, I can pull that beautiful energy down into my solar plexus, and I'm loving myself as soon as I open my eyes. But on the journey, it would take till 11, 12 a.m. before I would consciously be able to go, oh, that's right, I'm a spirit being in a human body, and I love God. You know.
Yeah, no, that morning ritual is definitely helps a lot on the journey. And in the one thing that I remember, well, it's actually something I came across not too long ago, was you know, this basketball coach speaking to her team, and they were talking about how it's, you know, life doesn't get easier, but you have to get better at dealing with it. That's, you know, and that's great advice, because it's very true. Life doesn't get easier, but the lesson that you have to learn and the tools that you have in your tool belt to work through it and move through it and learn and grow and move yourself into new realities, that is the key.
That's right. And I think, you know, us joining together here as one, I mean, that would be, you know, my desire, my will, for our message is this takes time. This takes time. And if you're waking up at 20 or 50, it's a journey and it's going to take time. It's going to be quicker because of the energies on planet now. It's going to take a whole lot less time than what it's taken yourself and myself and over 50s, you know, because we were working in creating that rainbow bridge for everybody else to cross. And so it was really needing the downside of willpower to get us there. But in hindsight, we can now say that, well, we didn't really need that intense willpower that was married with shame, because here we are today.
So true.
It's evolved. We're evolving beings. And as long as we don't give up, as the Dalai Lama says, never give up, never give up. And I'll never give up on addictions, because it's not an overnight. Anybody in a 12-step program, that's why they keep going back. We keep going back. In my mind, I keep connecting with my divinity, which is what 12-step groups remind you about, and to keep self-reflection and doing your inventory and sharing your story and helping others, you know. So it will happen. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. And I think if that's what yourself and myself can bring to an audience, that it's okay. It's okay. Keep that willpower in check, but not to be militant about it, as you say, to in the now moment. And if this is what I need to do, right now to prevent myself from killing myself, then that is what I will do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's it, right? And the other thing too is, and it's something that we didn't touch on, is the people we surround ourselves with. So sometimes when we're making a change that's so significant to our life, like changing an addiction or changing, it requires changing the people that are around you. And that can be,
People, places and things.
right?
People, places and things. Yeah. Yeah.
And that can be a very lonely feeling, right? Because a lot of times we engage in these things because we don't want to feel that loneliness or feel alone. We want to feel connected. We want to feel like there's other people that want us around, that want us to be, close to us and all of that. And that's why we engage in those things, because there's other people that are doing it and you feel connected with them. But when you do the change and you're pulling yourself away from those people, just hold tight, because yes, it's dark. Yes, it's hard, but people are coming. And if you just keep holding on to that, you're attracting those spiritual beings that you can be around that are going to support your journey, support you. It's coming. Never lose sight of the fact, yes, you may be alone for a week, a month, you may even be alone for a year, but it's coming. It is coming. And the sooner that you wrap your heart around that faith and that belief, the faster it will come.
See, this is why, sorry.
No, yeah, sorry.
This is why I believe that shadow work and the inner child work is hand in hand in that, because our codependency on people, places and things, especially family, that needs to be looked at, to be given the freedom to step away, to know that you are not alone. Right. There's many of us on planet that are doing this work. And so they do go hand in hand, to be able to reflect back onto what patterns do I have that are disallowing me to move away from what I desire, my will, and my true self's will. So it's huge, isn't it? It really is huge. And now that we're sort of coming to the end, I sort of think, well, willpower has no merit, does it? We've unpacked it to the point where willpower has no merit, other than I will to will thy will, my higher self's divine self's will. That's all I can do. White knuckling it is so painful and frustrating and uncomfortable, and you're not even physically in the body, because you've got this other agenda that is screaming at you. And why even be there? Why even sit at the table and have one little serve and go, oh, I want more, I want more, I want more. That's uncomfortable. That's uncomfortable. Eat up.
That's right. Have that plan B ready.
Have plan B ready. That's exactly right.
Well, thank you so much for this lovely conversation. It really, it's so wonderful to just kind of pick that apart and then come to the realization that really willpower doesn't have a whole lot to do with it.
No, it doesn't. We may get a few comments, I imagine, but it's our experience, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. So thank you so much. If this video is something that resonates with you, we're going to be publishing more videos on emotions. I also have the book club that I publish every 2 weeks. We talk about, right now, we're reading A Course in Miracles. I imagine it's probably going to take us well over a year to get through it, because it's quite the extensive book, but it's the information that's being shared there is tremendously helpful in personal growth and all of those things. So please subscribe if this is something that resonates with you. And yeah, I can't wait till our next conversation, which I think, what did we say? The next one was going to be grief.
Grief, and that's coming up to Christmas time, and I've got some great stories regarding Christmas, and many stories from my childhood, that have hung around, but we'll get to that in December. But I just want to thank you so much, Linda. It's been an amazing conversation. And hello, everybody from the East Coast of Australia. My YouTube channel is Monique Hill, Intuitive Soul Savant, but we can probably pop that in the, and I'm mainly speaking about the shadow. I sort of unpacking the shadow. So, but thank you for the opportunity, Linda.
Absolutely. And I thank you very much for joining me, because it's such a gift too. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to get this video onto your YouTube channel as well. So that would be wonderful. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Monique. And until next time, December 22nd is our next little meeting here. And we hope to share some more with you.
Namaste, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.